At 83, Jack Nicholson no longer softens his view of Hollywood. After decades at the center of power, he has learned exactly who deserved his respect and who did not. To the public, he was charm and control. Behind the scenes, he was watching closely. Some behavior crossed lines. Some egos proved intolerable. Some partnerships failed in ways he never forgot. This is not gossip, and it is not nostalgia. It is a reckoning from someone who reached the top and saw what it cost. Tonight, we count down 5 figures who tested Nicholson's limits. Each name reveals a different breach of trust. The final one explains why even a man of his stature stopped forgiving and chose distance instead. Number 5, Ray Winston, the actor who refused hierarchy. To the public, the pairing looked perfect. Jack Nicholson as Frank Costello, dominant and theatrical. Ray Winston as Frenchie, grounded and lethal. On screen, the departed carried their tension with ease. To Nicholson, the collaboration ended when the cameras stopped. Winston has never softened his account. He said they did not get on and that Nicholson carried himself as someone above the room. Where others saw confidence, Winston saw arrogance. That distinction mattered. On a set where every role depends on trust, it created immediate distance. The origin of the clash was simple. 2 actors from different worlds. Nicholson arrived with decades of authority and total control of his presence. Winston arrived with a working-class code where no one gets special treatment. That difference showed up in small moments. Nicholson joked around others, but not with him. He performed for the room while keeping Winston at arm's length. Winston later mocked Nicholson's mannerisms, calling them smug. Not as a joke, as an irritation that never faded. One moment pushed it beyond work. Winston said Nicholson was rude to his wife. That crossed a line. He later admitted that if Nicholson had been younger, the situation might have turned physical. It was not said for drama. It was said to explain how close the resentment came to open conflict. Winston has always been clear about one thing. He never questioned Nicholson's ability. He called him a great actor and meant it. What he rejected was the attitude, the sense that status excused behavior. There was no single blow-up, no final argument, just a steady build-up that neither man chose to diffuse. After filming ended, there was nothing left to preserve. No friendship, no curiosity about working together again. Just respect for the work and distance from the man behind it. Winston saw arrogance and walked away. Next comes someone who tested Nicholson's control in a very different way. Number 4, John Belushi, the force that resisted control. To the public, Going South looked like an inspired mix of comedy and star power. To Jack Nicholson, it became a test of control. By the late 1970s, Nicholson was not only the lead, but also the director. He arrived expecting discipline and structure. John Belushi arrived as he always did, loud, impulsive, and unwilling to follow a plan he did not create. Nicholson approached Belushi as a senior figure. He tried to guide him, shape his performance, and keep scenes within limits. Belushi did not see guidance. He saw restriction. To him, Nicholson felt rigid and overly serious, someone trying to cage an instinctive performer instead of letting him run. The friction surfaced almost immediately. Belushi improvised constantly. He stretched scenes, added lines, and ignored boundaries. For Nicholson, directing while acting, the unpredictability became a problem. Scenes ran long, momentum slipped, control faded. Nicholson responded in the one place where authority is absolute. He took it to the edit. Belushi's role was reduced. That choice landed harder than any argument. Belushi did not read it as professional judgment. He took it as a personal insult. Later, he summarized the experience in a sentence that left no room for interpretation. Jack treated me like shit on Going South. I hate him. The bluntness mattered. It marked the break. At that stage of his life, Belushi was already under heavy strain. Sudden fame and personal instability were affecting his behavior. What looked like comic chaos was part of a larger pattern that magnified every conflict. Nicholson did not adapt to that reality. He tightened control instead. Nicholson had never been known for cushioning egos. When something failed, he corrected it or removed it. With Belushi, that meant shrinking his presence and protecting the film. To Belushi, it felt like rejection by someone he respected. The aftermath complicates the story. The anger did not last forever. In later years, Belushi reached out to Nicholson for advice on future projects. After Belushi's death in 1982, Nicholson publicly defended him, pushing back against dismissive criticism. The resentment belonged to that set, not to the rest of Belushi's life. Their collaboration stands as a clear lesson. Discipline and instinct collided, and neither side yielded. The work survived. The relationship did not. If that tension stayed on set, the next name shows what happens when power is exercised in public. Number 3, David Spade, the small man in a big room. To the public, Jack Nicholson represented unchecked stature, long career, total confidence. To David Spade, that stature became impossible to ignore during one brief public moment that changed everything. By the late 1990s, Spade was established in his own right. He had built a career on sharp timing and self-awareness. At the same time, he was dating Lara Flynn Boyle, who moved comfortably in the same Hollywood circles as Nicholson. According to Spade, the moment unfolded without warning. They were together with friends, relaxed and talking. Nicholson turned to Boyle and asked her out. He did it directly. He did it with Spade standing beside her. Spade has never exaggerated the scene. He said Nicholson asked her out in front of him and he froze. What followed made it worse. Boyle was angry with Spade, not Nicholson. She felt he should have intervened. Spade later explained why he did not. He understood the hierarchy. As he put it, you either go out with Jack Nicholson or you do not. There was nothing he could say that would change that equation. The aftermath was just as public. Boyle and Nicholson were later involved in a car accident in the Hollywood Hills. Spade said she climbed out through the sunroof of Nicholson's mother's Mercedes, shouting that she had a boyfriend and should not be there. The tabloids ran with it. Spade did not hear the story from Boyle. He read it in the National Enquirer. That detail stayed with him because it showed how little agency he had left in his own relationship. What lingered was not just the breakup, it was the manner of it. Nicholson did not pull him aside. He did not soften the moment. He exercised status openly and let the imbalance do the work. Spade has joked about it in later years, even recalling Boyle initially pushing back. That resistance did not last. Nicholson and Boyle appeared together soon after, and Spade was gone from the picture. Communication faded. The relationship ended quietly. The memory did not. Spade has always told the story with humor, but the discomfort remains clear. He laughs, then admits how small the moment made him feel. Nicholson has never addressed the incident in detail. Boyle rarely speaks about it. What is known is that she and Nicholson were together on and off for several years. There was no public feud, no exchange of words, just a lasting impression. The episode endures because it exposes how power tilts a room. One question can redraw the balance instantly. For Spade, it was the moment he learned that presence does not equal standing. That loss happened in seconds. The next one unfolded over years, and it destroyed a partnership built on trust. Number 2, Robert Towne, the friend who chose control. To the public, Jack Nicholson and Robert Towne looked inseparable. Actor and writer, talent and voice. Their collaboration defined an era of American film. To Nicholson, the end of that relationship marked one of the deepest breaks of his career. They met in acting class in Los Angeles in the late 1950s. Both were struggling, both were ambitious. The friendship came first, the work followed. Towne wrote parts that helped shape Nicholson's rise, including The Last Detail. Then came Chinatown. Towne wrote it with Nicholson in mind. The film changed everything. Nicholson reached the top tier. Towne became one of the most respected writers in Hollywood. Their bond was built on trust, not contracts. That history made the two Jakes feel inevitable. A sequel, a reunion. Towne would write and direct. Nicholson would star. Robert Evans returned as a partner. On paper, it was solid. In reality, it unraveled fast. Towne wanted full control. He began pushing back on casting, especially Evans. Days before filming was set to begin, Towne attempted to remove Evans from the project entirely. The response was immediate. Lawsuits followed. Financing collapsed. Sets were shut down. A film that should have started quietly imploded in public. Nicholson later explained that the damage landed on him. He was the only partner with real money exposed. He had to halt other work and fight to keep the project alive. The relationship shifted. This was no longer about a script or loyalty. It was about responsibility and resentment. When the film was revived years later, Nicholson stepped in as director. For Towne, that was the final break. Towne saw the changes as a betrayal. Nicholson saw them as survival. Each rewrite widened the gap. People close to the production said the conflict stopped being creative and became personal. Towne would not bend. Nicholson grew exhausted. At one point, Nicholson offered $2 million to buy the script outright. Towne refused. By then, the friendship was already over. When the two Jakes finally reached theaters in 1990, the response was restrained. The box office disappointed. Reviews were muted. Any hope of continuing the story vanished. What remained was the damage. Towne later said the experience was unpleasant for everyone involved. Nicholson admitted they did not speak for more than a decade. Towne rarely revisited the fallout, but when he did, the bitterness was clear. Nicholson never directed another film after that project. That silence carried its own verdict. Their story stands as a warning. Shared success does not protect trust once control becomes the priority. Town fractured the bond. The final name shows what happens when pride turns a disagreement into disaster. Number 1, Robert Evans, the ally undone by pride. To the public, Jack Nicholson and Robert Evans looked like an unbreakable pair. Star and power broker, actor and kingmaker. Their bond had been forged through shared success, especially after Chinatown lifted Nicholson into a different tier. To Nicholson, Evans was not just a producer, he was a friend and a trusted ally. That trust collapsed around the two Jakes. The project was meant to prove that the original chemistry still existed. Nicholson would star, Robert Towne would write and direct, Evans would produce, and also expected a role on screen. From the start, the arrangement carried tension. The breaking point came quickly. Evans wanted to play the other Jake. Towne refused. Nicholson sided with the writer. What should have been a casting disagreement turned into a standoff. Days before filming was set to begin, the conflict exploded. Production shut down, sets were dismantled, lawsuits followed, millions in preparation costs vanished almost overnight. For Nicholson, the damage was personal. This was not a distant studio project, it was tied to one of the most important films of his life. Watching it collapse over ego and control felt like betrayal. The friend who had once helped elevate his career now stood at the center of its derailment. When the film was eventually revived years later, Nicholson took control by necessity. He directed it himself to keep it alive. The decision was not symbolic, it was practical. Evans was no longer someone Nicholson trusted near the center of the project. The camaraderie that once defined their relationship had gone cold. Nicholson later described the ordeal as one of the hardest experiences of his career. He spoke carefully, never naming names, but the source of the conflict was clear. Evans's insistence on acting, the shutdown, the anger that followed. Evans later admitted he should have stepped aside. By then it no longer mattered. The film was finished. The friendship was not.